Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Discriminating Gamer. Say, why don't pirates ever go to strip clubs? Because they've already got all the booty. Ladies and gentlemen, today we're going to go ahead and take a look at Starfinder, Pirates of Skydock from Gale Force 9.
We'll get back to the review in just a moment. I want to take a minute to ask you to check out my other channel, that is Cody Carlson, PhD, where we talk about history, books on history, military history. I even post some of my lectures for my classes on there. Please check that out. Please subscribe to that channel. And now, back to the review.
In Starfinder, Pirates of Skydock from Gale Force 9, 2 to 4 players take on the roles of various kind of rogue agents as they're attempting to penetrate a super secure facility in order to steal a starship. Now, the game board is essentially a map of this facility. During setup, you're going to go ahead and place various tiles, various room tiles, in the different places on the board, the different rooms where you can go to, and these contain different actions that you can take over the course of the game. Now, there are different kinds of cards in this game. You have a scheme deck, a loot deck, and an encounter deck. More on them later. But you're also going to go ahead and take your own kind of player board, and you're going to grab 4 kind of energy cubes, which are going to represent kind of the turns you can take, and they're going to have some other abilities as well. Each player is going to get 2 secret backer cards. You're going to select one, place the other one back in the box, but these are kind of secret objectives that you're trying to score at the end of the game. You'll also place 3 objective cards at the top of the game board. There'll also be some different kinds of tokens, alert tokens, and support tokens, and you're also going to kind of have these kind of improvement tiles that will allow you to prove some of your abilities over the course of the game. Now, on the left side of the board, you also have kind of an alert track, depending on player count, that will trigger a lot of abilities during the game and a lot of events during the game. And then on the right side of the board, you'll also have a launch track, which will essentially be a countdown track to when the starship launches. You'll want to have all your ducks in a row when that happens. Now, the first thing that happens every round is the planning phase. Players each draw 2 cards. It can be any combination of scheme cards and loot cards, but you can go ahead and put those into your hand. At this time, you can also expend your loot cards in order to upgrade your character, essentially placing these upgrade tiles on your board, which makes the actions you can take better. This is also the period where you'll actually take the energy tokens that you will expend for actions. Now, during the action phase, you can actually go ahead and spend the energy cubes in order to take these specific actions. Depending on what the tiles are on your player board, that will tell you exactly how good those actions you take will be. Now, the first thing you do is move. Essentially, you can move a number of spaces equal to the number that is on your player board that you've upgraded to. Now, if you go into or leave certain areas with certain tokens or items, for instance, if you leave a room with a guard, you have to draw an encounter card. And an encounter card may force you to engage in some sort of little story that may be beneficial, but it's probably not going to be. Now, you can do the loot, meaning you can draw a loot card, and there's a chance you can spawn guards in that ability when you take that action. You can take the interact ability, which essentially allows you to do whatever specific action is listed in that room tile. You can scheme. Essentially, you can draw a number of scheme cards equal to the number on your player board. Now, you can attack a guard. Essentially, you're trying to pass a challenge check with a die. You're trying to roll a certain number. And if you pass, you can either airlock them, meaning you'll gain a couple of points, victory points for that, or you can just kind of stun them, in which case you can take a loot card. You can also take the heal action. Now, some actions on the board may kind of inhibit some of your actions. You can use that to remove them. And you can also gain 1 victory point for every bad token you remove this way. So after you've gone ahead and you've done all the actions, you go to the upkeep phase. The first thing you do during the upkeep phase is you discard down to 5 cards in your hand. You move the launch counter down 1 space and you pass the first player token. Now, the guards are going to start moving around the board. They're going to start attacking players that they find under certain situations, certain circumstances. You'll have to roll a skill test to see, what happens there. But then you may gain some of these negative tokens that inhibit your abilities on your player board. Next, you can actually remove those tokens from your player board. This does not get you the victory point that the heal action does, but you can go ahead and remove those at that time. Some of them will simply flip from one side to the other. So players are going around and around. They are taking actions. They are trying to gain victory points. They're trying to get the most before that launch timer goes down. There's also special abilities that they can do, special rooms, of course, as I say, that they can interact with in order to further their mission and gain those victory points. Now, there are also various objectives out there you are trying to fulfill, and you must fulfill at least one of those during the game. So as soon as the launch token gets all the way to the end, the ship launches, you go ahead, you look at your kind of secret backer cards to see who scored there, and whoever has the most victory points wins! Starfinder, Pirates of Skydock. Okay, that's a bare overview of the game. There's a lot more going on there. There's a lot of other little things you can do. Those are just the basics. So first of all, I've had this game on my shelf for probably about 1.5 years now. It's been a while since I got this, and I kept trying to get it to the table, and I just was never able to. Recently, Ray actually asked to borrow it because he's familiar with the IP. He went ahead, he played it, he really liked it, and then he came and he kind of showed me how to play it. And so we just played through the 2-player game. He's played it a few times now. I just played it the one time, so I'm kind of going to incorporate a lot of Ray's thoughts into what I'm saying here, my impressions of the game. Now, the game itself is pretty interesting. That is to say, the theme is interesting. This idea of it's a heist, right? You're trying to get the most points to steal this ship here. I thought that was a very unusual and interesting theme. I'm not familiar at all with the IP, but I think the characters look really cool. The artwork here is great. And I really liked some of the aspects here as far as the player board and how you're upgrading those actions and how you're playing for those actions, and the card interactions I think are all really well done here. That really made me excited for the game, and things that made me excited about the game. One of the big problems I had, one of the big issues I had, and this is something Ray and I discussed that was kind of, we felt, a detriment, and that is, in the game itself, obviously, you can move from room to room in order to interact with those room tile locations and do those specific actions. What we found is neither of us were moving around the board much. It seemed like within, honestly, I think I maybe went to 3 or 4 of the locations. It seemed like I could get done everything I needed to get done within just a few of them. And it seemed like a lot of them just were not that interesting or engaging or really helpful. And that was kind of a disappointment because you want, a game like this, you want to be able to know that everywhere you go there are fun things. And there are different tiles that you can use here. But you just want to feel like all the different tiles you can go to, each one of them has something really fun you can do. And it just felt like some of them were very not particularly useful or helpful. And Ray said that over the course of several games, he felt that. He got that impression too. And that was something I just felt in the game we played. So that was really kind of disappointing. Now, like I say, I like a lot of the interaction with the cards and the actions you can take just with your player board and stuff and the upgrading it. I thought that stuff was all really good. But too, in just the 2-player game, it felt like, for me, it was a hair longer than it needed to be. I felt like I got everything I needed out of it within about 45 minutes, and there were still 20-30 minutes of game left. So that was kind of disappointing. I think there's a lot of fun and neat and interesting ideas here. I just don't know that it was executed as well as I would have hoped. I think this is a good game. It's fun. It's a game, like I say, if I had a friend that came to me and said, "Hey, I really want to play it. Will you play with me?" I would, absolutely, and I would have fun with it. But this is not one that I would reach for. In fact, I'm probably going to end up donating this copy to my library, just because I don't know that I've got room for it on my shelf. It's a fun game. It's just not one I'm wild about. So as you guessed, I'm going to go with the try it before you buy it recommendation. I think some people probably will get a kick out of it. It's a good game. It's just not for me. Well, thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for joining us today on The Discriminating Gamer. As always, I ask you to please leave a comment for us on YouTube, on Board Game Geek, on our Facebook page, or on thediscriminatinggamer.com. I'd ask you to please like us on Facebook, subscribe to us on YouTube, and follow us on Twitter. I'd also ask you, ladies and gentlemen, to please check out my other channel, that is Cody Carlson, PhD, where we talk about military history, books on history, fun things like that. I'd ask you to please check that out, and please subscribe. It would mean a lot to me. I'd also ask you to please give a thumb to this video on Board Game Geek. And if you really do enjoy the content we bring to you, ladies and gentlemen, I'd ask you to please click on the Super Thanks button and leave a tip. Ladies and gentlemen, how do pirates know they exist? They think, therefore they are.
Please somebody help me on my feet again. And I don't know where I'm going, and I don't know where I've been. Please somebody help me on the solid ground. It's a long time, and I'll be dying. Once a year I wind up in the band. God knows that I love the fight.
And now, a mummy dancing.